Hey, welcome to Ed, a podcast about the teaching life. This is Conversation 94, and I'm your host, Shane Lawrence. Ed is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. And joining me this week is Sarah Thomas. Right on. So how's your day been?
It's been all right. It's been okay, thanks. How about yours?
It's been a day. It's been a day. Yeah. Just dealing with some special kids and maybe a clash of perspectives, perhaps. But you know what? It's all good. It's all behind, and tomorrow's a brand new day. So
that's right.
Right on. Well, Sarah, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate this.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Right on. Well, I mean, you're a fellow podcaster too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So, can we just slide right into things? Just kind of kick it off?
Sure, yeah.
You're ready. All right. I like it. So let's just start with a brief introduction. Like, who are you? What's your place in the educational world?
All right, sure. Hey, I'm Sarah Thomas, and I've been an educator for 14 years, going on 15 very soon. I've taught everything from grades 1 all the way up to 12 in master's classes. And currently I'm a regional technology coordinator, meaning that I work in a large district with 208 schools, and we have it chopped up by clusters. So I am with one cluster of elementary schools, and I also am the founder of EduMatch.
So you got quite a bit of shiny stuff around your name.
Thank you.
So you've been doing this 14, 15 years. You like what you're doing?
Oh, I love what I'm doing. Yeah, I would have it no other way.
Oh, no other way. So you've always wanted to be a teacher?
No, actually, that's a good question. I didn't know that I wanted to be an educator until probably, I want to say my junior year of college, when my mom started teaching middle school.
Okay.
And, I went down to her classroom, helped her get set up, got to meet some of her students. And I was just like, wow, this is really where I want to be. But, I have all of my coursework done. So it wasn't until I actually re-enrolled in a master's program and saw an alternative certification opportunity, and I jumped at that, and that kind of brought me to where we are.
So what were you training in before then?
Oh, I was a radio, TV, film major, and I actually worked for a year at a cable access station up in Maryland. And but while I was doing that, I was also doing my master's in intercultural communications. And then I switched over the following year to education.
Okay. What's intercultural communication? I've never heard that before. I mean, I can sort of figure it out maybe, but you probably know better than I do. You do know better than I do.
Well, I mean, it's funny because probably if I had stuck around, I could have given you a better answer, but it was, I was pretty much learning about nuances, among and between cultures and kind of how to navigate those. So I don't know where I saw myself going, end goal. It was kind of open-ended. So I really don't know where I would have ended up had I stayed that path, but I don't think I would have been as fulfilled. So, yeah.
Cool. Do you find that your intercultural communication experience, does that play into what you do now?
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because when I went back for my PhD, then my major was international education. So that's why I always hesitate when I say inter, because I'm just which one do I finish with? But international education. So I mean, it really, it was kind of like a continuation of that. My master's was in curriculum and instruction, but then I went back to the PhD in international ed, and I really saw a lot of crossovers there. So that was pretty cool.
So you've got all this experience with international, you've changed careers. Are you kind of the mover shaker type? Do you want to keep on moving on, or is this something you feel like you're going to be doing for a while?
It's funny because I absolutely love what I do, and I feel like I have the best of so many worlds right now where I am. So I'm super happy, but I'm never one to close the door and say never will I ever. So, definitely just kind of seeing where life goes and just rolling with that. But I'm thrilled right now with what I'm doing. So yeah, I don't have any plans to leave anytime in the near future.
So what are you doing?
I'm working with a district, a really large district, and I'm loving that. Because, when I was in the classroom, I was loving that as well. So, I've been very fortunate the last few years to really do what I love, after I kind of had a few shaky years at the beginning, but once I found my footing, then I've just been really just honored to be able to do what I love every day. And, so I do that. And then also I adjunct. So they call it affiliate faculty at the university where I work. And, I'm about to start teaching master's classes. Again, this will be my third semester. And, I run EduMatch. So, I mean, all of these things kind of have intersections. So I'm really happy, really, really happy with all that.
So is EduMatch, like, is that kind of the outward manifestation of how you view technology?
Yeah, kind of. And it's technology, but it's a whole lot of other things too. So it's like, it's kind of like a holistic view of education. So a lot of people, first, when they first meet it, well, first they think it's a dating site, and it's totally not a dating site.
Now I have to go Google this. Is there a dating site for teachers? But I don't want that showing up in my Google history. And it's like, no.
Oh, incognito window.
Yeah. That's right. Oh man, Sarah, now I'm going to be thinking about that for the rest of this episode. I'm going to have to check this out.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, sorry. Okay. EduMatch. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But the second thing that I would say that, people tend to think that it might be like really tech focused, and it's not necessarily that. I mean, we get into tech sometimes, but it's just really a holistic view of education, just, at all levels, and, just everyone learning and growing together. So no matter who it is, whatever educator, from wherever, if they want to connect with folks, then, hopefully they'll find a community there that they can vibe with.
So what is that view? You talk about a holistic view. I mean, sort of what's the mantra?
Yeah, just pretty much we all have something that we can share and should share. So EduMatch is all about amplifying the voices of practitioners, for educators, by educators, kind of riffing off that old brand FUBU, for us, by us. So kind of the same concept. So just learning and growing with one another. So it's just really, it's been a cool 5 years so far.
I'll bet. I like that you brought up amplification. That's a word that I didn't encounter until fairly recently, and it seems to be popping up, maybe just because I've got an ear for it now. But I mean, what do you think we need to be amplifying right now?
Oh, I think we need to amplify like everything, all of the lessons that we learn, successes, learning opportunities, just everything, everything that we can. And I say that with a grain of salt because definitely there's some things that that people may not want to amplify, or they may not feel comfortable. But I think that we learn so much, and when we crowdsource our knowledge, then that helps us kind of move forward. Like what worked in your class, let me try it in my class, or like what's my view, what's my worldview, and how is that influencing how I shape or how I see my students, how I interact with my students, and what can I do differently? And maybe, if I talk to this person over here who has a totally different worldview, then both of us might shift slightly. So, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. So how does this all come back around then to this, like what you do, your tech coordinator? Like, what's sort of your big goal in life, I guess, as a tech coordinator?
Oh my goodness. So it's funny because tech coordinator, that's my title. And tech, I would say, would be like the vehicle through which I try to, kind of, for lack of a better term, drive good pedagogy.
Okay. Yeah, fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So on my team, there's like, my team is amazing. They've been such an influence on me ever since I met them about maybe 10 years ago. And they've inspired me. I've learned so much from them. And currently they're using a model called PICRAT, which is similar to SAMR. But it looks at what the students do with the tech as well as what the teachers do with the tech. And it's kind of like this 9x9 matrix. It was made by Dr. Royce Kimmons.
Okay.
And that, like, the pedagogy is the focus. The tech is just kind of, once again, to use the term, an amplifier. So, it's an amplifier of good practice, an amplifier even of bad practice sometimes. So, I mean, the tech is secondary, and the learning is definitely first.
Okay, so back it up here. I'm not sure I heard you right. Do you say PICRAT?
PICRAT, yeah. So
PICRAT, is it like I go to the store and I want a large rodent, so I pick a rat?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
okay.
It's PICRAT. RAT. So,
Oh, good. I got it. All right. I wrote that down with a big question mark beside. I'm like, pick rat? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
I've never heard of this before, so we got to dig in. What is this?
Oh, yeah. Like once I learned about this, it totally blew my mind. But if you can think of like an x-axis and a y-axis. So if we look at the x-axis, that's the teacher's use of technology. So that's the rat part. So R stands for replacing, A stands for amplifying, T stands for transforming. So those are three different things that teachers can use with the tech.
Okay.
Or that they can do with the tech. And then the students are on the y-axis.
Right.
So pick, the P stands for passive. They could have a passive use of tech. The I stands for, I believe, interactive. So they could, use it to interact. And C stands for creation. So, so really the end goal is to build capacity so that all educators can deliver lessons that are CT. So, creative, transforming. But I mean, obviously not every single lesson is going to be CT, but the goal is to build capacity so that everyone's capable of delivering those CT lessons.
Right. So I'm looking, I've actually drawn this out. So I'm thinking, okay, so like, top right-hand corner is creation and transforming. So like replace and passive is like, that's like, I don't know, showing kids a movie on their, on their phones. It's like, go to Drive and you can find the movie there and then you can watch it.
Exactly. Yeah, that reminds me, kind of sort of, if you equate it to SAMR, which is what we were using before, then the PR kind of reminds me of the S in SAMR, the substitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just kind of takes the whole thing and just explodes it a bit more.
Right.
And it's interesting that it actually, it addresses both the teacher's use of tech and the students.
Yes.
Yeah. What is okay? Now I'm just digging into what does transformative passive look like? Is that even a thing? Whenever I see things that get paired together, I'm just like, I'm going to pair them together in really weird ways and just see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good one. I never even thought about that.
That's when you show a really good movie.
Right. It's like transforming their lives, or they're just like, passively consuming it,
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's awesome. It's funny. I was talking to the student today just about that, about like, we're doing these, self-directed projects. And I just said to him straight up, I'm like, you just want to consume stuff. And what you need to do is create stuff. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So, nods his head, walks away. He's like, okay, I'll come up with something better. Like, good for you. I'm not going to give you marks or evaluate your ability to play Fortnite. I'm sorry.
Right. Exactly. Make the next one,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or so, I mean, I've got some of those kids too, which is awesome. But, so, okay, you're tech coordinator. So you're going around all these different schools. What's the advantage of that? Let's say like, I don't want to be a classroom teacher anymore. Why should I be a tech coordinator? This episode of Ed is brought to you by the Edmonton Community Foundation. If you live in Edmonton, chances are you've been touched by the work facilitated by the support the ECF provides to the city's shakers, movers, and doers. As a bridge between donors and charitable causes, ECF helps donors create endowment funds that will continue giving for generations. And they also have a podcast called The Well Endowed Podcast. Episode 45, their newest, is up right now. It's the Indigenous Career Fair. And they tell us about the Edmonton Radial Railway Society. Then they go to the Indigenous Career Fair to hear from inspiring speakers like Councillor Aaron Paquette, Brandy Morin, and more. You can find this and all the other Well Endowed Podcast episodes at thewellendowedpodcast.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation with Sarah. What's the advantage of that? Let's say like, I don't want to be a classroom teacher anymore. Why should I be a tech coordinator?
Oh, man. I would say that's a tough question because like I've heard people say that before and I'm just like, like okay. For me, like it was like, oh man, like leaving the classroom for me was a very difficult decision to make. So because it was right in the middle of the year and I knew that I wanted this position so bad because this was something I was doing, outside of work. Like, I was definitely, making videos, tutorials, things like that, for folks like in my spare time for fun. So I was just like, oh, this aligns so well. But I have to say leaving during the year was one of the hardest things I did, like, leaving, the class, leaving my students. So So sometimes people think that, the classroom, it's challenging, it's stressful, I want to do something different. And I respect that. I do. But I feel like in this position, you still really, really have to keep I don't even know how to say this, but keep the pedagogy at heart. I probably pronounced that all wrong, but
no, I got it.
yeah, like I would say that that's like my driver, in this role. I'm trying to think about what would I want for my students and bring that to all the teachers I work with. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question or just tap danced around it, but
that's some fine tap dancing. No, I get that. I mean, it's I mean, you're still a teacher, right? That's the thing. You're still a teacher.
Absolutely.
But you're working now. I guess your clientele, for lack of a better term, is actually teachers now instead of students.
Right. Exactly. But it's all teaching, it is all teaching.
Okay. So, I mean, kind of the general sort of knowledge or wisdom goes that, like nurses and doctors make the worst patients. Teachers, do they make the worst students?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say and this is going to sound like such a cop-out, but it depends on the teacher, quite honestly. Oh, yeah. I feel like there's so many of us who are just soaking it all in. Like, we're lifelong learners. The fact that we can now learn on our time what we want to learn through all of what social media has brought us, podcasts like this have brought us, it's really, I feel like there's so many of us that are hungry and thirsty to learn, and so many people that don't even know that stuff like this exists. And, I'm super confident that once more people kind of find their network and find their PLN and find their personalized professional learning path, then, that's going to be even more of a collective awakening. So that's kind of how I feel. I know that, like, if it's something that's not relevant, if I were to be at a workshop that was not relevant to me and I felt like I had no agency, no choice, then I might be more inclined to disengage. But once, but if it's something, if I keep that passion going and if it's something that I'm really hungry for, then I'm definitely going to be all in. I see that in our field.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I only, kind of threw that at you because knowing that I myself can be a pretty terrible student sometimes too. But I mean, I like the way you wrap that up in terms of like, sometimes if something doesn't really, if it's not aimed at us, if it's not hitting us, it's not engaging us, then it's just like, I got more important things to do. I'm going to take a nap.
Right. I totally hear you. And I have to say, I'm a pretty horrible student, quite honestly. I do tend to be a horrible student, especially when it comes to self-regulation, but, on both sides of the coin. So I might like jump in a little too gung-ho for something, and I might, kind of be a little too disengaged sometimes. So, I mean, it all depends on the topic, and it all depends on, the relevance,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, what have you learned then as a student in this new role? What have you learned?
What I've learned, I would say, I've kind of learned more of a holistic view of education because initially, and I want to kind of backtrack to before I got connected even, then I saw my students, my classroom, might have seen, in talking with some of my colleagues, might have heard some of their challenges and their wins. Might have gotten out to a couple of conferences, couple of district events, things like that. When I got connected, then all of a sudden it was like global, I kind of got more of a global view. I was able to read blog posts, listen to podcasts, do Twitter chats, things of that nature. And I would say that my move into this current role as a regional technology coordinator, now I actually get to go in and see it like firsthand as it's happening in someone else's classroom. And that was probably like the biggest shift for me. I was just like, wow, that was incredible to see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you probably get a lot broader view of sort of the technological landscape as it pertains to the teaching profession because you're in so many different places now.
Right. Absolutely. You get like a kind of a bird's eye view. So it's pretty cool.
So what are you finding? Like, I mean, is there anything you're finding that you're kind of like repeating over and over? Like you go to this site and you tell teachers this, and they go to another site, you tell teachers the same thing. Like beyond, have you tried turning it off and back on again? But I mean, beyond that, what wisdom do you find yourself sharing over and over again?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I'm in a very, very large district. So,
like what's big?
Oh, we have like 208 schools.
Whoa.
So yeah.
Oh
so we are like a huge district. So in order to get the word out about different things, then, you got to repeat it like a few times, like more than a few times. That's like the understatement of the year. But, so I do a lot of work with G Suite. We're separated into different teams. So I'm on the Google team, as well as the iPad team and the social media team and the video team. So, but I would say the bulk of what I do is with the Google team when it comes to professional learning. So a lot of times we do the same, not necessarily the exact same presentation, because, we try to customize it to the needs of our audience. But yeah, I do talk about Google over and over and over. Yeah. But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. I think though, I mean, from my own perspective, when they were into the transition of Google, it just seemed like a lot of people just standing on soapboxes yelling Google. And now it seems like we've thankfully gotten past that point where it's like, now there's, okay, now it's part of the landscape and we can dig in a bit, which is, so nice.
Totally. Yes.
But hey, let me put you on the spot.
Okay.
What's like your number one like tip that gets the most like, oh, I didn't know that, like for Google Suite? What's like the one thing? I know that's a really unfair question, but because I don't know, I'm curious, and every now and then, I'll be using Google and then I'll come across this little tip. I'm like, oh, that would have saved me a lot of time if I knew that, like, 6 months ago.
Right. What's funny, sometimes it's the simple things that are like the most eye-opening, like the things that you think that you have mastered, but there's like a little hidden feature that kind of changes your life. So for me, then it was with Calendar. I mean, I've been using Calendar ever since the days of Palm Pilot, before there was like Google Calendar,
Oh yeah.
But I would say that Calendar is just so robust because like the find the time slots, I love that. In addition, I would say that there's like a plugin that I use, Calendly, which is kind of similar to the appointment slots, but I do like Calendly, which is, now they have a Chrome extension, but how you could just kind of send that link out and people can reserve a time and you can generate back like, a whole bunch of automation with it. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm really a big fan of the apps and extensions as well. So I guess I cheated and said two things. So.
Oh, how dare you? Well, I'll edit one of them out.
Oh, no. Oh, man.
No, that's really good. I mean, and yeah, there's so many great extensions, and I mean, our district policy has kind of made that a little more difficult for our students. But anyway, there. I'm just see me stepping around that soapbox and not getting up and yelling. Good for
I feel you.
Right on. Okay. Gosh. Okay. So, boy, this is coming back. I should have asked you this ages ago, but I mean, the reason I really like to connect with you, one is because you have like the most badass Twitter profile picture, which you just changed like today. And I'm so sad because you had this one and you're like, you got like this bass guitar and it looks like you're ready to like just shred and murder somebody. And it's just like, and it's just, it looks so awesome. I was like, wow, I want to talk to her. Your new profile picture is very nice. So, and
thank you. I appreciate it. I have to say, I was a total poser with that bass picture. Like,
what?
You
don't play bass?
I play a little bit, but I would say like my main instrument, like I could do a little more with guitar and more than that with keyboard. But like my main thing is vocals, like 100%. Yeah.
Like, would you consider yourself like a musician or a music lover, or what's your?
Oh yeah, live and breathe music. Like that was my first love for sure.
Oh wow, oh man, we're running out of time, but I feel like we could just kind of reverse engines here and go into that. But but anyway, all this to say, I came around because you said in your profile, you say we all have a story. What's
Right.
yours? So
Yeah.
I love stories.
Oh,
So
me
what's
too.
what's your story?
Oh, goodness.
And that's a
I feel
huge question to ask.
that is a huge question. Oh my goodness. I feel like there's like 37 volumes of this story. So
Oh yeah, for sure, right? But I mean, let's put a finer point. Let's get like sort of the condensed version. I mean, what's sort of your edu story? Oh, I hate that. I hate it when people put edu in front of words. I hate that, but I'm gonna do it. What's your edu
Oh,
story?
my edu story.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, so let me see. I was really good at playing the game of school as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
um, up until about sixth grade. And I was still good at playing the game. I just didn't care to play the game.
Right.
I cared to play other games, like socializing and,
Mm-hmm.
talking on the phone and things like that. That took more priority of my life. And it's really wild because there was this constant need to connect. And I was kind of like a misfit in school, I guess. And so that connection piece, yeah, it was fulfilled, but not quite. I still felt very isolated a lot of times. So fast forward, I got back into my playing the game of school role towards the end of high school, where it was time to kind of buckle down. And then in college, kind of more of the same, a little bit of playing around or whatever. But then when I started teaching, I want to say that all of this experience at both playing the game of school and just like seeing how other things can kind of crowd that out. I would say that those kind of influenced my teaching style, so to speak. And with the whole connections piece, then that kind of served a dual purpose for me. It served first to kind of enhance my own teaching and learning experience, but also once I realized that, hey, there's all these amazing people around the world, who are trying to learn more, become better teachers, and they're pretty cool, then that kind of helped to fulfill that connection part of me, that I felt that I had been missing as a kid. And so I just kind of jumped all into this whole connected educator space, and just I've become a better person for it, I want to say,
Right
and a better
on.
teacher. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you've just kind of being able to sort of, it's not a do-over, but you're coming back to the place where you can kind of take in, it is a redo. I'm losing my words here.
No, you're
But
good.
it's almost like a second chance in a way, because it sounds like you're being able to kind
Yeah.
of fill in the gaps and say, I didn't have this, so let's help other people have what I didn't get.
Right, exactly. And I feel like now I'm starting to have it. So I'm just excited to be teaching in 2019. See, I had to think about the year for a second. 2019, despite, there's like a lot of room to grow, but there's also a lot that's going right. So I'm just excited to be teaching in this, in this current time.
Fantastic. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you're with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Right on.
Glad you're with us too.
Well, Sarah, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to chat with me. Really, this has been a good time.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, of course. And hey, if people want to get in touch with you, if people want to know more, what's the best way to do that?
Probably the best way is to get me on Voxer. I'm kind of attached at the hip to my phone. So my Voxer handle is SarahDateechur, and that's the same as my Twitter handle. And EduMatch is edumatch.org. EduMatch Books is edumatchpublishing.com. So in all those places.
Right on. Voxer. You're the first person who's listed Voxer.
Really?
Yeah. But there's I saw a big Voxer thread happen the other day. I've tried Voxer. I have. I tried it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I can't get into it. I know.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But sometimes, like, do you have a long commute?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. You might want to try that, like, on your commute, and also take advantage of speeding up the Voxes, so that they go faster and you can get through a lot more of them a lot faster. So.
Yeah, that's my podcast listening time though. That's tough. That's a tough sell.
Yeah,
That's when I do my listening.
I hear you. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know, maybe I'll dip my toes. The other thing too is I found it like when you jump into Twitter, it's like okay, I get this. Voxer,
Right.
I jumped into. I'm like, what is going on? I just could
Oh,
not.
goodness.
So maybe I'm just too much of a I don't know, a tech baby or whatever. I don't know. I just couldn't quite figure it out quickly enough, and I don't know, excuses. There was a cross breeze. So.
Oh, no. And you should come join us during EdCamp Voice that we're bringing back in July. So, I mean, there's going to be like a lot of, there's going to be a lot of different rooms going on, a lot of activity and, how-to sessions as well. So
cool.
Yeah, so definitely.
Right on. I feel like now I just need to do like an episode about Voxer just to kind of figure this stuff out. But
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you again for this great conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was great talking with you.
Likewise. You take care.
All right. You too. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This episode is brought to you by the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. And guess what? So are we. And who are we? Well, I'm Josh.
And I'm Alan.
And we're Press Start to Join.
We have a weekly podcast bringing you current events from everything from gaming to comics to technology, security, all that fun stuff. And every episode we bring you a recommendation for something we think you might like, and we've got a special Bad Descriptions game that we're playing every week now that Josh hosts.
Yeah, new for 2019, I've written a whole bunch of bad descriptions of things that seemingly makes no sense, but once you know what it's to, it's painfully obvious.
And then at the end of every month, we do a deep dive into the history of a gaming company, franchise, or just even technology. We've done arcade cabinets one time.
Popular things like Mario, and then things you don't know about like Earth Defense Force.
You can check us out at psjshow.com, albertapodcastnetwork.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. So as always, thank you all very much for listening.
And thanks for pressing start.
And if you want to get in touch or you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at theedpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter at theedpodcast. If you'd like to listen to more of Ed, you can head over to the website, theedpodcast.podbean.com, or you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcatcher of your choice. Just search up Ed Conversations. Ed can also be heard on Voice Ed Radio. It's 24-hour internet broadcasting devoted to the best ideas in education. Just head over to voiced.ca. So, on behalf of myself and Sarah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.